Hey everybody, welcome back to another fantastic episode of Ready to Die Fighting. I'm Chris, and today I'm back in the kitchen, and I've made this lovely, look at this. This is ginger beer, ladies and gentlemen. It's ginger beer that is flavored for the holidays, and I'm really excited. Although I'm a little bit skeptical on this one. I'm not sure that it's going to be ready in time. These things need to ferment. And then here is some kombucha that is also flavored, got some holiday flavors. So I'm going to show you how I make the kombucha today, and then I'll probably do another video on how to make ginger beer. So like and subscribe if you enjoy this sort of stuff, and let's try to make this quick. So kombucha is basically fermented tea. It is alive. It requires very few ingredients, really just black tea, although I have heard some people make it with green tea, but it's typically made with black tea, sugar, water.
You have 15 minutes.
I have to be at work in 15 minutes. I have to leave for work in 15 minutes. Basically, sugar, water, black tea, and thyme. That's the main thing you need, is you gotta put it away, leave it alone, and let it do its thing. Fermentation, if you're not familiar, is basically just where you're letting bacteria or yeast eat the sugars and expand and grow and burp up carbon dioxide or whatever their waste product is, and it changes the thing. So if you think of bread, you're basically fermenting it with the yeast. You know, the yeast eats the sugar and needs the water and everything to, it produces all this gas, and that's what makes the dough grow. Pickles, sourdough bread, there are plenty of examples of it. It's really good for your gut health, and generally it makes things taste good. It gives it a nice tanginess to it. A lot of hot sauces, in particular, they ferment the peppers first before they make them into a sauce to give you that little extra zip and tang. So with kombucha, you're fermenting black tea. And to do that, in the process of making some now, because it is alive, like most things, it needs air. So you don't want to put a tightly sealed top. I just use like a piece of cloth and a metal ring here, and that's what I use for tops. My finger still hurts. It's hard to hold things. You want to use a glass jar, because this is going to be very acidic. It's almost like vinegar. And so if you use something like a metal container to store this in, metal's pretty reactive with acids. You can get some funky things going on, and that's no good. I also avoid plastic for the same reason. Plastic has a tendency to absorb flavors and smells, and especially if you've got some BPA or something like that, it can maybe leach that out. You're storing this stuff long term, like a week or more, depending on how strong you want this kombucha to be, depending on your conditions, all that. So glass, in my opinion, is your best bet. You're going to ferment it twice. The first time, it turns it into kombucha. The second time is when you add flavors, and you put it in a bottle, and you get the carbonation, and that's what makes it fun, is the flavors and the carbonations. And you can flavor this with pretty much anything you want. I don't think I've made some kombucha that I didn't like, because in the end, it's just a carbonated sugary drink that's actually good for you. So however you flavor it, it's kind of fun. So first, for the first fermentation, oh, I forgot to grab the sugar. We're going to need sugar. You want to get, I use 6 bags of just black tea, plain black tea. Let me grab the sugar right quick. I use Newman's Own black tea. It's organic, it's inexpensive, there's no flavors or anything. The first fermentation is not where you want to add flavor. You want to go plain with that. Plain, boring Jane black tea is what you want. And I just use regular old-fashioned white sugar. And so I take the 6 bags of tea, let that steep for, 10 minutes or so. You want to go long haul with this because you want to make a really concentrated, strong tea because we're going to dilute it. I'm just going to dump some of that water out. You want to get yourself a nice glass jar. These mason jars work fantastic. Let me just grab my recipe book so I can remember how much sugar I'm supposed to put in this thing because I forgot. 0.75 cups of sugar. So that may seem like a lot, nearly a cup of sugar. There is flexibility there. You can, depending on how sweet you want it. But keep in mind, this sugar isn't really for us to drink. It's for the bacteria that you're growing to drink. So that bacteria and yeast needs sugar in order to do its job. The tea doesn't have sugar in it, so you got to add sugar. And so at a minimum, you want to put like 3/4 cup. Probably, there's certainly, you don't want to put too much because
you have 10 minutes.
The bacteria can only eat so much. And so you don't want to have excessive sugar or it'll be excessively sweet. But you want to make sure that there's enough to feed this SCOBY, which I'm going to show you the SCOBY in a minute. You want to make sure that the SCOBY has enough sugar to be able to do its job. And I'm just going to go like this. I should probably use a funnel, but I think it'll be all right. And if I were just drinking tea, I don't recommend squeezing it out because you're going to get like some bitter stuff there. But I'm not going to be drinking tea. I'm going to be drinking kombucha. And the bacteria is going to be eating up this stuff and converting it and all that. So I'm going to squeeze a little bit out just to make sure I get enough. Now, I'm just going to stir that up. I like to put the sugar in when it's nice and hot so that it dissolves easily. There we go. Now to help cool it down, I'm just going to fill this most of the way with water. Actually, how much water am I going to put in here? I'm going to put some water in here. I'm going to go up to maybe right about there. That should be good. And so I mix the hot water with the cold water to help cool this off, for one. But also because my pot's just not that big, and so the less water you use, the more faster it'll heat up. I'm just going to keep that lid on there. This isn't the lid I'm going to use while I'm doing the first fermentation, but this has to cool down, and because of all the plants, we do have some gnats, and you want to keep this clean. You want to keep bugs out of it. Once this cools down, and like absolutely cools down, room temperature, you can stick your hand in comfortably, like it feels cool to the touch. Then, if I can open that, this is the SCOBY. And you want to keep this nice and clean. You are growing bacteria. SCOBY stands for symbiotic culture of bacteria yeast. So this, let me wash my hands real fast, just to make sure I didn't touch anything I shouldn't have. This bad boy, you want to keep nice and clean. It's disgusting looking. I will not lie. Look at it. But it is a big mass of bacteria. This is bacteria and yeast working together to convert black tea into an acidic, probiotic full drink. You can eat it. You can put it into a smoothie. You can put it in your compost. You can feed it to your dog. It's perfectly safe as long as it's healthy. Like I said, it needs the oxygen, it needs the water, it needs the sugar, it needs the tea. And you get a disgusting mess like this. Every time you make kombucha, a new SCOBY is formed. And so the more you make it, the longer it sits here, the bigger, thicker, more disgusting SCOBYs you'll get. However, if you are not careful, you really have to make good choices about what type of cloth you use to cover it, because it's got to be something that's breathable, but it's got to have a tight enough knit to keep bugs and dust and anything else like that out. And what happened here is I was using a different type of cloth. It was like a terry cloth, and a little piece of lint fell out. A little piece of lint from the cloth. I saw it fall in.
The time is 9:20 a.m. Dogs in cages. Where are your keys?
See, it's time for me to go. And this is why I'm always late. And look what happened. We've got it got contaminated, and now I've got some kind of weird growth going in there, and I don't want that. That's probably going to make me sick. So that's going to get tossed. I can no longer use it. And so I'm going to be extra careful. I've made kombucha multiple times. This is the first time I've had it get contaminated. So after this cools off, I'm basically going to leave it while I go to work, so it'll be nice and cold. I will add the SCOBY. I will add about half a cup of this is the starter liquid. And then set this someplace for about a week. Don't touch it, don't stir it, don't do anything to it. Once you're done with that, it will be kombucha. It won't be carbonated, it won't be flavored, it won't be sweet. It'll taste very kombucha-y, but by itself, you can drink it, but it's much more fun to add some. You want to use a round container because the carbonation, the pressure, it does build up and these things can explode. So get a round glass, jar, bottle, whatever you want to call this. Add some kombucha, leave some headspace so that gases can build and form. Add your flavors. It can be any kind of fruit, any herbs. This one, I put some lime juice, a sprig of rosemary, and cranberries because I'm making this for Thanksgiving. There's also, I think, some honey in there. And then every day you want to, you see that? It made a little pop sound and bubbles are coming up. Carbonation is building. It takes a few days, maybe 3 or 4, possibly 5 days, to get to where you want it to be, where it's like really like a soda. And there's your kombucha. Pop it in the refrigerator and drink it. You want to keep this someplace room temperature while it's growing and fermenting. After that, you can pop it in the refrigerator, pour it over some ice, whatever. It's delicious. It's healthy. It's easy. It's fun. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next video.